This is my sports ethical philosophy by Jacob Sled for HSES 831. My philosophy for sports basically begins with ethical standards, and I have 4 of them. 1, you have to have a value for human life. 2, an educated understanding of cause and effect. 3, agreed rules of fair play. And my 4th one, a commitment to compete in good faith. First one, value for human life. Really, we're talking about an athlete's health has to come first in sports. Gone are the days, I think, of practicing in 100-degree weather, not allowing players to get water, pushing them to the point where their body breaks, or putting them back into a game after a head injury when they can barely stand up. An athlete's health and long-term health has to be considered by everyone on the staff. Next, just remembering that athletes are people and not tools. They're not something to use as a means to an end, and when they break, you throw them away and they lose all value. Not just the physical health needs to be considered, but also the emotional. The stress put on athletes from traveling and the high pressure world of sports for wins really take a toll emotionally on athletes, just being away from family, and so that's something that has to be considered too. Most teams have psychologists, chaplains, and people of that nature to make sure that the emotional health is being monitored as well for athletes. Cause and effect. Assumptions times ignorance equals a negative outcome. I got a picture here of the goalie from a few weeks ago whose coach was trying to pull him out of the game and he refused to leave. Thought he was better suited to stay in, and of course they lost that game. And then strategy times education usually equals a win. And there's our KU's very own Bill Self talking to some of the former players there on the sideline. Really what this is about is more of eliminating the guessing and the bro science, if you will, of sports, and the idea that you can just throw out any type of strategy without any education about what the outcome is going to be. That's how people get hurt. That's usually how rules usually end up getting broken, and just really takes away from the fun and the competitiveness of sports. So the agreed rules of fair play. These seem pretty obvious, but they're important. You have to have rules for the sport. Can't just go in and make it up as you go along. You have to agree. Both teams have to agree that the rules will be followed at all times. So that understanding between each group, knowing that you're going to attempt to give your best effort in sportsmanship at all times during the game. Of course, all athletes need to be held to that standard, and that goes, whether you're the team captain as one of the players and you're holding your teammates accountable, or you're the coach. Of course, recently we saw the West Virginia player trip an opponent when they kind of landed out of bounds. And once that was reviewed, the referee saw it, and that player was ejected. Again, just holding player standards. Next, a commitment to compete in good faith. So teams and coaches should compete with a positive motivation. This is really just talking about teams shouldn't be going out and coaches shouldn't be going out to purposefully hurt another team or damage another team, damage them physically or their reputation, or just really going out and trying to hurt somebody in some way, but instead going out and wanting to compete with sportsmanship in mind and entertainment and in fairness. Sportsmanship should be observed at all times. The sportsmanship, again, is just a focus on playing the sport within the rules and doing it in a good nature and within the context of trying to win fairly. So in the idea of trying to win fairly, no attempts to purposefully cheat. Accidents happen. Sometimes you make hustle mistakes, and those typically aren't purposeful. But just again, not going in with the strategy to purposefully try and skirt the rules to come away with a victory and cheat another team. Really, at the end, is putting others above winning. It's putting your teammates, your staff, and the players above the win at all cost mentality. And remember, the team is always more important than one person. And I have just an example here of what servant leadership looks like. Intentions plus our actions equals will. From there, you can choose to love. You love the sport. You love your teammates. In order to really show that, you end up having to serve and sacrifice, whether it's your teammates, your coaches, the staff. And then through that builds influence. Other players, other people on staff see that kind of mentality, and that inspires them. That inspires them to turn around and then be leaders themselves on the team within the organization. This was my ethical theory on sports. Thank you very much.